Instead, I chose to get on my horse, jump over this rock by the cliff, and watch the little red guys roll off to their death. Was this slower than the bird method? Yes, but it was still pretty decent, and I got 2,000 runes for each guy that fell. Back to the overworld. Next up on my list was get a better healing incantation. I rode up to the Altus Plateau, and this prompted Brother Corin to leave the Round Table Hold. I then found him on the side of the road where he sold me Great Heal, a nice little upgrade that heals about 50% more than the normal heal. With that, I was ready for my second demigod boss fight, Radahn. The cool thing with Radahn is that you can summon a bunch of NPCs to help you. Not only that, but you can resummon them when they die. So to beat this fight without attacking, it was just a matter of staying alive and resummoning as much as I could. And while I did try that for a bit, I realized quickly that this would take a fair bit of effort, and I had a more fun idea in mind. I got Radahn to follow me all the way to the western edge of his arena. Then I jumped up the side of the cliff using my years of Skyrim expertise. It took a bit of patience, but I eventually got Radahn to follow me. And then... Radahn may have mastered gravity magic, but he did not master gravity itself. Another demigod down. Before leaving, I rode over to the nearby catacombs and grabbed the Radahn soldier ashes. I wanted to try them out on my next stop.
I'm reading my mod's channel. Did they already roll out that fucking
They're actually not bad. This was a good
tag
choice.
thing? Mature tag shit?
Their health mostly topped off with Great Heal for the entire
What was
fight.
it before? Was it a fucking cosmetic?
I get the item I came here for. The Radagon Icon Talisman. This slightly increases the casting speed for sorceries and incantations. And if I was going to be casting healing constantly, this seemed like a necessity. And then I left Raylucaria because I didn't even want to attempt
Bro, what's Twitch doing?
Not only was she not necessary to fight at this point,
doing?
but her first phase alone seemed like it would be a nightmare to deal with for summons that would run around trying to
Still
target
cosmetic? No,
anyway,
I feel like they're doing that so that, like, if your stream is labeled as, like, where you swear or whatever the fuck, they're gonna pay you less in ads. They're gonna pay you less in ads. That's what they want to do.
To beat the Draconic Tree Sentinel at the entrance. Out of curiosity, I let the Radahn soldiers take a crack at it, but they got absolutely destroyed. Every hit staggered them for a few seconds, so it felt like upgrading them wasn't going to cut it here.
What if you don't want kids on your stream? And you just want to have mature tag just to not have kids on your stream? What about that? Like, maybe you don't, like, maybe you don't swear, or maybe you don't, like, do anything, but you just don't want kids around.
So I just ran
and you just put mature tag just for that, but they're not gonna pay you ads just because of that. Bruh.
Alright, close. All I had to do was keep the dog alive a bit longer so I could get some more damage off. I upgraded him to +5 and tried again.
I need to try streaming on YouTube.
I upgraded him to +6 and tried again. Perfect. At this point, it seemed like the Rotten Stray might work for everything. Except, no, he wouldn't, because the next boss was the Spirit of Godfrey, and I'm no scientist, but I had a feeling poison wasn't gonna
so
work
what,
on
we're gonna eat up the shit that Twitch is coming up with?
In the city of Nokron. However, before I left Lendl, I made one quick stop to pick up the Deathbed Dress. This is a chest piece that passively heals nearby allies. This effect is very minor with something like 2 HP per second, but hey, every bit helps. And as an extra bonus, check out the fashion. This sad man was rocking that dress. On to Nokron. Here I picked up the Great Shield Soldier Ashes. This is what I would use for the next fight. Before I left though, I wanted to also grab the Mimic tier since I had a feeling there was potential there too. To get to that, I needed to defeat the Mimic boss. Fun fact with this guy, you can unequip all your weapons and armor before starting the fight, and the Mimic will spawn in with nothing. After doing that, I just sat back and watched my dog kill him. No need for me to even heal, since the Mimic was only doing 1 damage per hit. After that, I ran deeper into Nokron, unlocked this fog wall with the Stone Sword key, and grabbed the Mimic tier ashes. Just a couple more things before I was ready for Godfrey. First, I grabbed the Two Fingers prayer book from the fortified manor in Lendl to give to the Turtle Pope. With this, I learned the Lord's Heal, which is a tier 3 version of heal, and I also picked up Blessing's Boon. Blessing's Boon is an incantation that heals nearby allies for 90 seconds. I believe it's 8 HP per second, so between that and the Deathbed Dress, my summons would get 10 HP back per second before even accounting for the other healing. Lastly, I upgraded my Great Shield Soldiers to +6, and I was good to go. It was Godfrey time. These shield guys are incredible, and I highly recommend giving them a shot even for normal playthroughs. There's 5 of them, and they each hold a great shield that allows them to block while attacking. As long as they're facing the target correctly and not getting hit from behind, they take almost no damage. I did step in to heal every now and then, but for the most part, I just stood back and watched. Their damage output being low didn't matter because they just weren't gonna die. Godfrey down. This wasn't even close. After the fight, I grabbed Blessing of the Erdtree from the Queen's Bedchamber. This functions identically to Blessing's Boon, but it's 12 HP per second instead of 8. With that, I was ready for Morgott. And in case you didn't know, you can actually summon Melina to help with this fight. She's an interesting summon. They gave her the same moveset as the Black Knife Assassins, so she'll dodge around quite a bit. She also has this big AoE healing tree move, which is incredibly helpful if it comes in at the right time. I decided to go with the Great Shield Soldiers again to fight alongside her. Things seemed to be going pretty well, healing wasn't too much of an issue, and they were blocking everything. But then Morgott decided to do this move. Yeah, couldn't exactly out-heal that one. No problem though, I just used Margit Shackle next time to cancel that move whenever he started it up. And this worked great, until phase 2. Because in phase 2, he has that same move, but Margit Shackle no longer works. On top of that, he also has a lot more elemental attacks that the Great Shield guys weren't too good at blocking. So, alright, seemed like the Great Shield soldiers weren't going to work for this one. Who could I count on? Who had always been there for me? That's right, it's Rot Dog time again. My first attempt went pretty well. The dog managed to stay alive until the beginning of phase 2. I tried to keep Melina alive too, but she got focused down pretty hard soon after. Then it was just me, Morgott, and the Scarlet Rot slowly killing him. Maybe if I just, hid here, I could do this. Oh shit. Yeah, unfortunately my dodging skills were not up to par and I died. Though it's very possible Scarlet Rot would have run out anyway. On the next attempt, it was going about the same, but then Melina came in with clutch timing on her healing tree right at the start of phase 2, which went a long way in keeping her and the dog alive. From there, I just kept frantically healing as much as I could, and I got him, with both Melina and the dog surviving to the end. Next, it was onto the mountaintops of the giants. The next major boss was the Fire Giant. This guy has something crazy like 25,000 health, but I wasn't worried. Turns out you can actually just get him to die from fall damage if he follows you up on this cliff here. So he'll walk off and take no damage. Uh-oh. So now's a good time to mention that this was all recorded on patch 1.03, and I believe one of the changes they made was fixing the bug where he could fall to his death. This was pretty bad, however I wasn't about to give up. I had options. Option 1 was to summon Alexander to help with the fight. Unfortunately, doing this disabled my horse, so that seemed like a terrible choice. Option 2 was to ignore Alexander and just use my summons to fight the giant straight up, but that massive health bar made this also feel impossible. Option 3 is a bit crazier. I could escape the boss arena on horseback with some precise jumping. There's a fog wall that's supposed to prevent this, but they didn't quite make it wide enough. From there, I could ride alongside the edge to this point right here. For some reason, I could summon spirits.
Top VTubers are so greedy, it's like fucking unreal.
What's also strange is that elevation was a factor for remaining in the summoning zone. If I got off my horse, I could no longer summon anything. And one more complication, some of the giant's attacks could still reach me,
forcing people
so I have to use my dismount iframe to avoid it and get back on my horse to remain in the summon zone.
But they've been doing that.
I would summon a spirit with a ranged attack to shoot at the giant while I stood next to it and healed. To check if this was even possible and that the summons would target the boss correctly, I summoned the jellyfish, and luckily, yes, this might work.
Thank you for flattering me.
Before attempting this properly, I made a quick detour to the Ancestor Spirit in Siofor River so I could unlock the Ancestral Follower as a summon. It seemed like a decent option for a ranged summon. I upgraded him and brought him back for the fight. This kind of worked. The damage was low, but consistent. Keeping him alive wasn't an issue at first either because
he doesn't force people to donate, they don't want to
However,
leave,
he got pushed back a little farther each time, and he made no effort to reposition to get back to me. Eventually, he was all the way behind a rock, and I couldn't get to him without leaving the summoning zone.
Dude, I pause my timer when I sleep. What else do you want?
Fire Giant adds fire moves to his moveset, and this was a lot to juggle all at once. I kept trying though. This time I summoned the jellyfish, and you know what? I'll use her name. Her name's Aurelia, as per the item description. Aurelia could poison the giant with the added bonus of floating back toward me whenever she got pushed back.
Fuck,
I also decided to bring the Flame Protect Me incantation to reduce fire damage by 60% for the later parts of the fight. This whole process was very, very slow, but it was kind of working. Until, of course, Aurelia decided to hang out a little too close to the edge. Are you fucking kidding me? Alright, it happens. Maybe it was just a fluke. Aurelia, I swear to God. I swear to God. Oh my God. I'm gonna cry. Yeah, after the third time this happened, I decided to pack it in. And what was even more demoralizing was the knowledge that even if I did manage to get to phase 2, I'm pretty sure I would get teleported back into the arena with my spirit summon who would immediately get destroyed. So that's it. I couldn't beat the Fire Giant, and there was no way to get to Fair Missoula. Or was there? There was actually a very useful glitch I could take advantage of. And if you've seen the any % speedrun of this game, you're probably already familiar with it. The wrong warp glitch. I'll give a quick rundown, but essentially this would just let me teleport to the start of Fair Missoula, where you typically go after defeating the Fire Giant. Step 1. Rest at the 4 Belfry Site of Grace. Step 2. Touch the warp point that teleports you to the side island of Fair Missoula. Step 3. Use the Memory of Grace item, which usually sends you back to your last Site of Grace, but very quickly open up your map to teleport to the Stormhill Shack Site of Grace before it finishes. Step 4. You should now be falling beneath the map, so quickly quit the game. Step 5. Reload your game and you should now be at the start of Fair Missoula. I managed to get this on my first try, so I'm not exactly sure how strict the timing is, but if you fail, you can just retry until you get it. So yeah, I made it, and my reward for doing this was getting to fight the Godskin duo. Oh boy. Fortunately, I could summon Bernal to help with this fight.
I hope he didn't go to Mousie's stream to say that, because she's doing subathon for charity this time.
Among other things, the black flame attacks of the Godskin duo were just melting my summons and Bernal.
People start judging so fast.
So first up on my to-do list was to get more endgame upgrade materials for my spirits, and one source of those was the consecrated snowfield. Normally you have to collect 2 halves of a medallion and defeat a pretty tough boss to get there, but there's actually an easy way to skip this. If you come up here on the mountaintops of the giants and jump off this part of the cliff, you'll fall all the way down into the consecrated snowfield. Naturally, you'll die. After collecting some glove wart for upgrading my spirits, I decided that my spirit choice would be Black Knight Tiche. She's pretty consistently considered one of the best summons in the game, and I figured now was the time to use her. Only problem was that to reach the area where I could get her, I needed to complete Ronnie's questline. This was going smoothly enough at first until I reached Red Phantom Blythe. It was necessary that he dies because this is what would trigger Ronnie giving me a key that I need to progress. However, I couldn't summon spirits in this area. My first idea was to use Bewitching Branches on the basilisks before the Blythe encounter. Using these on enemies causes them to become your ally for 3 minutes.
You're so greedy for getting those 30 subs. So it's shameful.
My second idea was maybe I could just get him to walk off the ledge.
Fuck, man.
There was an elevator nearby, and I figured I could
so fucking greedy. Shit.
This did not work either, though, as the game would
what
not
am I gonna
allow
do? Fuck, you caught me.
There was still hope, though. Rejection. This is an incantation that pushes enemies back.
Dang it, cutting 0. Ah.
That's a good question, N64 Donkey Kong, but it actually doesn't because the threshold for what isn't allowed is anything that deals direct damage, and rejection causes no damage. So I didn't kill Blythe, gravity did.
Beautifully formed.
With that done, the next roadblock was Estelle. I expected this to be a fight that would take me a while, however it wasn't too bad with the Ancestral Follower. He was able to land headshots pretty consistently for extra damage, so it only took a couple tries. This is also where I started using the Golden Vow incantation to give my summons extra damage and defense. And one more thing, I used the Shabriri's Woe talisman to help keep aggro on myself while my summon was getting shots off. I'm not sure if this really helped much due to the way boss aggro works, but I wanted to mention it. Basically, bosses will usually target whoever is damaging them, so if I'm standing around doing no damage, Shabriri's Woe probably isn't doing much. But yeah, Estelle was down, and I can make my way up to... wait a minute. Oh yeah, I need to get the key from Raylocardia Library. I'll just fast travel there real quick.
Thank you.
Right, I never killed Renala. Cool. Alright, fuck it, it's Renala time. I chose to tell the Headless to help with this fight since she's just a good all-around summon.
I feel so greedy now.
And she blocks. Like I mentioned earlier, the reason I didn't want to do this fight was because my summons wouldn't target the correct enemy. Good news though, I learned that I could destroy the golden barriers on the girls crawling around with rejection. Doing this 3 times causes Renala to fall to the ground for a few seconds. But it's the same issue. My summon usually wouldn't target her because of the other enemies crawling around. After about 10 minutes of almost no progress, I realized that I needed a better plan. Though I got a hand to Lutel for her comedic timing. Nice. Nice.
Thank you.
Why did you turn away? Go back. Oh my god. Now I know some of you are already frothing at the mouth.
Costs
This is my
only
chance. I get to correct a YouTube guy in the comments by telling him that he forgot something. He should have just used the cursed blood pot. But see, I'm actually going to correct your correction preemptively. So yes, there's a consumable cursed blood pot item. If you throw it at an enemy, your spirit summons will automatically target that enemy and ignore others. Sounds perfect, right? Well, take a look at this footage.
Pogs.
Twitch region prices.
Did you see it? 1 damage. 1
damage.
damage. That's a 1 damage too much. So no, I wasn't going to use it. So quick correction, this is me from the future now. I found out that you can actually throw the pot at the ground next to an enemy and they'll still get the debuff without taking damage from the pot itself. So while I did not end up using this method, I technically could have. It's kind of inconsistent though, and if the enemy or boss is moving, you're probably gonna hit them.
I'm drawing a toffee for
Renala when she's just sitting on the ground. This actually would have worked.
Stick.
Instead, I thought about solving the Renala problem in terms of probability. The issue was that my summon could be targeting one of 20 different enemies at once. Those are pretty bad odds when I needed them to target the right one. My solution was to choose a spirit summon that gave me multiple allies.
Tough.
I decided to go with the demi-humans because there were 5 of them, and I assumed they'd do more damage than the Great Shield soldiers. Took a lot of patience on my part, but this eventually did the trick for phase 1. My logic of having multiple allies was correct. Phase 2 is also basically a non-issue because of how much pressure the demi-humans were able to keep on Renala. I just kept healing until we won. With Renala defeated, I unlocked the chest, grabbed the ring, and went back to where I defeated Astel so I could continue. And then, finally, I made it. The only thing standing between me and getting Black Knife Tiche was defeating the ringleader boss in this Everjail. And I can't summon spirits in here. Cool. So yes, after all that work, I failed to realize that you can't summon spirits for Everjail boss fights. Genuinely funny to crush my hopes at the last minute after all the hoops I had to jump through. I mean that. In my defense, I barely used summons on my first playthrough, so I never picked up on this. But wait, there's a ledge in this boss room. Maybe I could push him off with rejection. Nope, the game wouldn't allow it this time. And there you have it. I was back at square one for needing to defeat the Godskin duo. Awesome. I decided to just jump in and go for it with Lutel. Like I mentioned earlier, she's very good at staying alive while still pulling her weight. Both her and Bernal were pretty tanky, but the key was keeping them alive, which was easier said than done. Things would usually be going okay up until the Godskin duo brought out their black flame attacks. These attacks did crazy damage, and my allies made no attempts to avoid them. I kept trying again and again and again for a couple hours. Sometimes I'd get close, but it seemed like there was just no way to heal enough to keep them alive. I had a few ideas, like trying to pull away the big one at the start of the fight, but that didn't work because sometimes my summon would just switch targets and come over me.
At this point, do you want to record some colors and
One idea, which I learned after my last video, is that the Godskin duo are very susceptible to sleep.
No, I'm not.
If I could just put one to sleep, I wouldn't have to worry about both bosses at once. However, this seemed like it wasn't going to be an option either. There were sleep pots and sleep arrows, but both did damage, and I was committed to not bending the rules. It looked like I had to run.
Right?
No, not yet.
You let me go, right?
Idea. I ran down to the consecrated Stowfield and grabbed the treasure out in the back of one of the carriages.
You're gonna let me go, right? Like, live my life? Not being stuck 24/7 in my home, right?
I was allowed to use this, so I went back to the Godskin duo to test it out. It did a pretty good job of putting them to sleep. Now, all I had to do was get lucky with the positioning of my summons so that they wouldn't attack and wake up the one that was sleeping. After a bit of patience, I managed to do exactly that, and I even had time to fully heal my summons before going to second. Then, it was just a matter of repeating this a couple more times, healing throughout the fight, and there you go. I beat the Godskin duo without attacking. I felt really good. Malekith was up next, though. To get a feel for how rough this was going to be, I didn't fight Lutel. Phase 1 went very smoothly, but Phase 2 was too much. Lutel just got deleted. I needed more than good healing to win this one. So before grinding it out any further, I wanted to grab the Blasphemous Claw item. This would allow me to parry some of Malekith's attacks during the second phase to create big openings. This item is dropped by Bernal after he invades you, but to get him to invade, I had to kill
I'm mostly doing this so I can help my parents to buy a house, though.
Skip over this fight. I
want them to buy a fucking shithole in Ukraine.
Fight I just won. After that, it was time for Ricard. This is a gimmick fight where you're expected to use the weapon in the boss room, the Serpent Hunter Spear.
Come now,
I wasn't allowed to hit him with this.
What else would you even do?
Could. This is a good time to mention why I haven't used the Mimic up until now. In case you didn't know,
I would probably walk more, but
by reducing its damage. I believe it's just as tanky as it was before, but the damage nerf was substantial enough that it seemed like a weaker option.
It kind of feels like I'm in a jail, though, because like I'm just constantly at home.
Mimic was the way to go. Attempt 1 went pretty poorly with the Mimic just running into the
lava.
I
wasn't this much at home or at the PC before.
Way easier. I just fully upgraded the spear. You may not have realized this yourself.
You're allowed to go out. Yes, but like I don't have time to do that. I'm literally streaming and I'm trying to fall asleep.
But it was still tough because my opportunities to heal were so
go out to get food and then come back here.
Like before, and if I attempted to get close to heal, the lava would interrupt.
I'm not complaining for now, but
would need to survive mostly on its own. So
I just hope it doesn't give me bad, like,
this worked great. Not only did it beat Ricard, but it had plenty of health to spare. Maybe the Mimic wasn't as bad as I thought. With Ricard dead, I went back to Fair Missoula to get invaded. Things seemed to be going well. I was just going to lure him up on this ladder and then knock him off.
I want to cap it.
Apparently FromSoft added some very strict boundaries to prevent this exact scenario. I had to fight him on this walkway, and there was no ledge to knock him off. I tried jumping on the railings, but he would never follow. There was no way to knock him off. I gave this a real effort, though it seemed like I had to accept that this just wasn't going to work. I had to fight Malekith with just a summon and nothing else. I tried again with Lutel, but this was as close as I could get with what felt like near perfect playing on my part. That's when I remembered how the Mimic surprised me with Ricard. Maybe the Mimic would work. Its raw damage had been nerfed, yes, but the damage from status effects was unchanged. For example, bleed. I can make a bleed build for my Mimic, wear the heaviest armor, and maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. So I teleported back over to Moblin Palace to get grinding.
But if I do another subathon, people are gonna come and be like, oh my god, you're so greedy.
Here's the final build. Dual katanas each upgraded to plus 25 with the bleed infusion. The katana in the main hand had the Bloodhound step because I thought that might help survivability. My relevant stats were 60 vigor, 40 dexterity, and 40 arcane. And in case you didn't know, bleed scales with arcane, so that's why I leveled it. Lastly, here were the talismans I used. Basically, anything that would make my mimic more tanky. If you're curious how I got this one,
they already say that. True. Truly.
So yeah, I was ready for Malekith.
I'm drawing your Toph right now. Toph. I hope you like it.
Was it time to quit? Is this the best I could do? Hell no. I ran it back, I learned, I was patient, and I found openings where I could heal. And then I did it. Bleed is just that strong, and the mimic is just that tanky. Somehow, this actually worked. I almost couldn't believe it. Up next was the City of Ash. Sir Gideon the All-Knowing? More like Sir Gideon the Dead Guy. Got him. I just summoned my mimic and spam rejection. This was very easy and I had fun sending him flying across the room. After that, I grabbed Erdtree Heal from the Queen's Bedchamber. This is the most powerful heal in the game and it's just stupid strong. Watch this. Yes, it's kinda silly to be honest. 2 bosses left now. First up was Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. This actually wasn't bad at all. I beat him first try. Like I said before, bleed is that strong and the mimic is that tanky. And with Erdtree Heal, I was easily keeping the mimic alive.
Argentina, and I never was able to catch his team since different time difference until
only the final boss remains. Before going in,
but don't I usually stream around
this time? I'm pretty sure both
time.
Radagon and the Elden Beast are immune to bleed, but they're not immune to black flame attacks. So I switched to Twin Blades and equipped the Black Flame Tornado weapon art. And just to make my mimic extra unkillable, I got the Lord's Divine Fortification, an incantation from Round Table Hold which reduces holy damage by 60%.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a break and just go fucking vacation in Hawaii or some shit like that. Yeah, no biggie. What's the point of the marathon then? Stream from Hawaii.
So yeah, I got this on my second try. I really can't overstate how powerful Erdtree Heal was for keeping my mimic alive. And there you have it. Elden Ring can be beaten without attacking a single enemy and without dealing a single point of direct damage. I truly didn't expect to beat this run when I started. I just thought it'd be fun to show you all how far I made it. I love how FromSoft throws all these tools in their games for ridiculous runs like this to be possible. And just because it was bothering me, I went back to kill the fire giant, so yes, even he's beatable with the setup. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, subscribe for more FromSoft shenanigans, and have a good one. Elden Ring NPCs whose lives you ruined by helping.
You know the jellyfish spirit you get near the start of Elden Ring? Well, did you know it's the ghost of a young girl? And if you find its sister later in the game, you can release it so they can be together.
Dear sister, you find me here.
Lovely, but why mention dead jellyfish children? Because in Elden Ring, for every spirit reunited with a sibling, there are several more poor NPC chumps whose otherwise peaceful lives are made immeasurably worse simply for having the misfortune to bump into you, the wannabe Elden Lord, even though you were just trying to help. Oops. In other words, you'll want to do your very best to cling to those warm jellyfish vibes as we bring you the Elden Ring NPCs whose lives you definitely ruined. Sorry to those NPCs, and obviously beware big spoilers ahead for all of Elden Ring.
So please, if you would, allow me to call you Lord.
Buck? Should I skip this one? Should I skip the Buck one? No? It's fine.
You don't
I thought I'm gonna do the quest, no?
Thank you. Thank you. My lord, my lord, my lord.
Bock the Seamster is an NPC encountered early in Elden Ring who serves the game in 2 key ways. First, he can alter the player's garments for cosmetic customization, and second, he sets the tone for the entire adventure by being found randomly transformed into a bush for no apparent reason.
What'd you go and do that for?
Bock appears to be a demi-human, one of the monkey-like creatures that can be found across the lands between, and hails from a cave full of such
no
beasts.
spoilers if you're gonna play again?
Presumably for doing things like wearing a hat and talking.
Bruh.
Shampoo.
What? Nampy, thank you.
Soap.
And with a taste for crab
Thank
I
you,
couldn't
the
trust.
thumbs
You've got a real thing here, eh?
Plug.
And it's only getting better.
First impressions can be deceiving, and never is that more true than the first impression you'll get of the NPC called Big Boggart, because the first thing you hear about him is that he's a thief who's nicked a necklace from a woman called Raya, the scumbag.
That thug made off with a precious necklace. I need someone to retrieve it.
However, when you run the thug to ground, you find he might indeed be a thieving scumbag, but he has other qualities. For instance, an enormous bowl of sizzling barbecued prawns that he's perfectly happy to sell you, and that we're perfectly happy to buy, because Raya's honour is one thing, an enormous bowl of sizzling prawns is quite another.
Never met someone with a taste for prawn I couldn't trust. We'd make good mates, I reckon. I'll be seeing you.
And so is forged a powerful friendship with the prickly but ultimately warm-hearted Big Boggart, one based on delicious seafood and a willingness to chat idly about the lot of a poor tarnished, but mostly on seafood.
Perfect bloody timing, actually. I got crab. Cooked up fresh.
And sure, the crab is delicious, but more importantly, your kinship with Big Boggart is a timely reminder of not judging anyone based on how they look or on a mere first impression, and the importance of helping even those who seem unwilling to be helped. In fact, if we hadn't had our hearts opened by Big Boggart, we might never have decided to help this chap, who's been given the cruel nickname the Loathsome Dung Eater, escape his cell in the fetid sewers beneath Lanedale Royal Capital.
I've been here long enough. I will kill again. And defile each corpse with care.
Well, the road to rehabilitation is a long one. Anyway, this jailbreaking is hungry work. How about back to Big Boggart for a crab and a chat?
There's something I should probably tell you. You heard of the Dung Eater?
Uh-oh.
I was in the same jail as him once, so I know firsthand. He's a god-forsaken monster.
Uh-oh.
Kills people. And curses the souls. Does all sorts of shit to the corpses.
Uh-oh. Sure enough, by saying yes to every NPC you meet, you have unwillingly unleashed an old horror from Big Boggart's past. And the next time you come to visit your crab-cooking chum, he's been horrifically, fatally mutilated with something called the Seedbed Curse.
I don't want to live like this. Not anymore. So, please.
Oh damn, Big Boggart is dead, and you can probably guess whose fault it is. Dung Eaters. And yours, seeing as you freed the poop-gobbling maniac in the first place. Now you must go through the game with guilt and without Big Boggart's wry humour and fine cooking, missing it all the time, but perhaps never more than when this weird old mage turns out to be a prawn if you kill him.
There are countless pests to choose from.
Man, Big Boggart would have boiled this up real nice.
Bless you. You're a true saint. My name is Topes. Presuming you're interested, I can teach you sorceries, as promised. Only, none of them are particularly great.
Elden Ring is an empowering story about starting off as a meagre, low-level tarnished with a minuscule health bar, and going on to get a ghost clone that does the rest of the game for you. But not everyone in the lands between can be so lucky as to have a killer ghost clone as a best friend. Some are like Topes, an aspiring mage found peddling spells in a church, who you'll empathise with on several levels.
Then, perhaps you could spare some runes.
For instance, because he is a low-level sorcerer who'll remind you of your own early struggles, and because he's essentially locked himself out of the house, having left the wizard school where he lives just before they locked it.
When they cast the seals, I'd just popped out. And now I'm uprooted from my place of learning.
Oh, Topes, we've all been there, mate. How can we help? Well, what Topes needs is a spare key to get back into the academy and get his life back on track. Unfortunately, the Academy of Rhea Lucaria hasn't left a spare key under the doormat exactly. More like they've left a spare one on the roof, past the multi-armed killbots, round the corner from the angry wizard, down these other rooftops, past the gargoyles, down a step, down another step, through the window, along the rafters, down the rafters, on top of the chandelier. It's quite the slog, but for a friend, we'll make the effort. We're happy to help someone as friendly as Topes on the road to magical mastery, and besides, presumably once Topes is installed in his rightful place within the Academy, we can go visit him there. Maybe he'll have more for us to do. The fun is just beginning.
Perhaps one day you'll pay me a visit? Who knows? I may be a decorated sorcerer by then.
Perhaps, Topes. Or perhaps next time we go to Rhea Lucaria, we'll find you dead in a chair. That's right, your friend Topes took the key you helpfully retrieved and used it, and then presumably was effortlessly killed by some unnamed monster, or perhaps a disease or a gas leak. I guess From Software decided we never need to know. At least we can honour Topes by looting from his cold corpse the spell Topes Barrier, a spell deflection technique which, according to the description, is Topes' life work, and one that future generations will eventually realise is an earth-shattering discovery worthy of a new conspectus of the Academy, against which even powerful sorcerers have no moves. Okay, I think Topes was beaten to death with a book.
Wait, please! I surrender! White flag and all!
Are you gonna sink or swim? Paper my yeah, one got you limping. Annie got you simping. Cute.
True and true.
You may already be familiar with Patches, the scheming bastard who pops up in Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 every time trying to lure you into some kind of trap.
Say hello to the nice giant. He adores visitors.
And Patches absolutely is back on his bullshit in Elden Ring, and will trick you, shove you, and let you down in several notable ways, most infamously deciding to nope out if you choose to summon him to help with a difficult boss fight.
Me smile.
In another series first, however, the scoundrel known as Patches is revealed to have hidden depths in Elden Ring, and to value something beyond shoving unwitting adventurers into holes. Specifically, he's a member of the Volcano Manor, an association of tarnished who live in a house inside a volcano. Their lord is the mysterious unseen Rykard, and their leader is Tanith, who sits on a throne looking regal AF.
Why accept the burden of their grace, or be fooled by the dogmatic ramblings of the fingers? Rise with us against the Erd Tree.
The manor has a strict philosophy. Specifically, they don't go along with the admittedly suspicious divine ramblings of the Two Fingers. And surprisingly, the usually pragmatic Patches is a true believer.
I always hated the gibberish about lost grace and the laughable Two Fingers. I thought I could lend a hand in unmasking the charade.
He's also fairly obviously got a bit of a crush on Tanith, which is adorbs.
Even after announcing her blasphemous ambitions, she still stands proud. I've never seen a woman quite like her.
Having heard the pitch and seen Patches looking happier and more settled than ever before, you'll quite likely decide to help the Volcano Manor, which starts you on a questline of assassinations that eventually has Tanith send you for an audience with Lord Rykard, who, and stop us if you guessed this already, is a house-sized snake with a human face on its neck, who wants to kill you.
Why?
Trouble is, beating Rykard effectively ends the Volcano Manor's reason for being, and like a wedding when the free booze runs out, all the NPCs will gradually shuffle off once he's dead, their fellowship disbanded. And that includes poor Patches, who at first appears to put a brave face on the matter.
Well, here I am, untethered, once again. Goodbye, my friend.
But it's just a bluff, because later old Patches can be found a short way north in the poison-filled shaded castle, and now he's not so chipper. In fact, he appears to be dying, and just before slumping over, hands over a seemingly nonsensical item.
Jesus.
Certain that Tanith gets this.
Dicks.
Oh, it's nothing, it's just...
No,
makes me sick to see her all bent out of shape. Come on, Tanith, back on your high horse where you belong. You're able then? Then I can rest easy, my friend.
Nonsensical that is, unless you read some item descriptions. See, the castanets are described as being used by dancers from foreign lands. Meanwhile, the consort's mask that Tanith wears explains Tanith was working as a dancer in a foreign land when she met her beloved Rykard. So it's a reasonable assumption that Patches, far from being chill about the breaking of the Volcano Manor, which we remind you was your fault, is very much still stuck on Tanith, and hopes the castanets will serve as a reminder of her life before Rykard. A reminder that can't come too soon, seeing as when you next see Tanith, she is, and again, stop us if you guessed this already, feasting on the inside of Rykard's enormous dead face. And if you do hand over the castanets, Patches asks,
what is it? I have no need of that. I must continue devouring my beloved lord.
Doesn't give a shit. The castanets do leave your inventory, and to be fair, we have a strong feeling this questline isn't over, and that a future update to the game will explain WTF is going on with Patches, who vanishes from his last resting spot without dropping any loot, which suggests he may not be dead. But we can be pretty confident that whatever comes next, Patches is unlikely to ever get back the genuine kinship he experienced serving the Volcano Manor at Lady Tanith's side. If we had to put money on it, we'd say Tanith will eventually turn into something horrible as a result of gobbling Rykard's brains, and perhaps having handed over the castanets will somehow alter her fate once that happens, or at least lead to a pretty spectacular dance number. I mean, that's our hope, or else the castanets are pretty much the most useless gift in video game side quest history. Should have given her a little salt and ketchup, Patches. Make this eating challenge a little more palatable.
Our lord's carcass is vast, and not easily consumed.
Lord's carcass.
Ah, hello there.
You think you can leave? Yes? Maybe?
You are well and truly a champion, friend. I, on the other hand, am nothing but a crock. One hit was all it took to crack me, and for my insides to come spilling out. After that, I hid like a coward, and as such, I can hardly stand to face one such as you.
Now, when Elden Ring introduced us to an NPC who wants to be a warrior but is also a large breakable jar, it's absolutely on us that we didn't realise it would end tragically. Or at least that's how it ended thanks to our intervention, because when you first encounter Iron Fist Alexander, he's got his bum stuck in a hole in Limgrave, like a Winnie the Pooh who had a transporter accident with his own jar of honey, and only you can free him. Whimsical would be a good way to describe your subsequent encounters with Alexander, who needs your help several more times on his journey to becoming a great warrior. A journey that involves such sensible steps as baking himself in lava.
No, it's hardly more than lukewarm here. I won't be able to temper my body such that it'll never crack again.
And scoffing down the corpses that litter this Caelid battlefield, because the funny jars in Elden Ring can't just be funny jars, obviously, they have to also be eating corpses.
If I can just squeeze this bunch down inside me, I'll be a mighty warrior again in no time.
Alexander evokes the most charming Soulsborne NPCs of old, and so it is with a certain sadness that you find out he's left his home and vowed never to return, though he explains that he does come back to lovingly gaze at that home, in a conversation that would probably have more emotional impact if you hadn't had to oil up his backside to get him out another hole in order to have it.
By the gods, you are a man of vision. This will have me as slippery as a toad. I have a good feeling about this, my friend. Right. Give me a good smack from behind with something nice and big.
The home that Alexander was achingly close to returning to here is Jarburg, a peaceful and idyllic settlement sheltered beneath a cliff, where living jars can roll around in the flowers and live the sweet life, as opposed to what you're helping Alexander to do throughout the game, which is get repeatedly bashed about by some of the biggest and scariest enemies in the lands between. All for a dream that he's clearly not going to achieve because he is a fragile jar full of people guts. Bless him. Your final meeting with Alexander, which happens very close to the end of the game, is the saddest part of all. You'll doubtless be thinking, man, I wish I'd left this big lummox safe in that hole, as he challenges you to, oh no, a duel?
Would you kindly undertake my ordeal? Come and tell me when you're ready. I've been longing to fight a warrior as talented as you.
Clearly encouraged by your example throughout
I am
the
here
game,
to break the
Alexander
balance.
is desperate to fight you, and I guess eat you?
Let us become one champion together.
Which isn't going to happen because Alexander obviously sucks, bless him, and I've been leveling 2 katanas into god-slaying armaments and have 70 points in intelligence. But there's absolutely nothing else to do at this point but fight him. Unless there's a prattling pate item in the game we haven't found yet that shouts the words, "For God's sake, stop getting into fights, you are a fragile jar, go home."
As I suspected.
Victory was impossible. This vessel was found lacking.
What if you let him kill you?
My thanks. I knew you were the stuff of champions. It was a marvelous battle. I implore you, take what I bequeath from inside me. All vessels are destined to one day break. But the great Alexander lived as a warrior to his last.
Wow, cool. Love how the nicest NPC just exploded in a shower of gore. On the plus side, if you take a piece of his guts back to Jarburg, you can inspire this sweet child Jar to leave town just like his uncle did, continuing the cycle of pointless Jar deaths.
I'll begin my journey once I'm ready to go. As a warrior Jar, in search of glory.
Sorry, did we say on the plus side earlier? We meant everything is terrible, and we're sorry, Alexander.
It's a baby Jar. No.
Anyone who's been on a long hike through somewhere as scenic as Liurnia of the Lakes will tell you it's vital to bring snacks. Some trail mix, granola bars, or like one Elden Ring NPC, perhaps you have a fruitier preference.
If I might be so bold as to ask, would you donate any Shabriri grapes in your possession to me?
Hyetta is an aspiring finger maiden undertaking a journey towards distant light, which, to be honest, sounds a lot like the journey you, the Tarnished, are on, seeking lost grace with your own maiden pal, Melina. Hyetta is visually impaired, however, and says the grapes briefly show her the way to go. And seeing as you probably will have a Shabriri grape on hand by the time you meet Hyetta, hey, grubs up.
Many thanks to you. Now I can feel the distant light once more.
Dix!
You are most kind indeed.
Dix!
Hyetta, you want to row a fruit too? I've got about, 10 million. Helping Hyetta by feeding her grapes when you find them will gradually move her northwards, presumably towards that wonderful distant light she's questing for. It's a quest that you can enjoy for as long as it takes you to actually look at the item description for these grapes you're feeding Hyetta and discover that, oh, FFS, they're human eyes. That's gross, but at least you can still do the right thing and come clean to Hyetta about the fruits she's been gobbling.
No.
At which point she'll do something expected, which is to say, start puking.
So those noises I heard were...
And then something unexpected, which is to say, being into it. Oh crap, what have we done?
I've gleaned something very important indeed, thanks to you. The reason why it was eyes I had to eat.
Soon enough, regular oozing eyeballs of the infirm aren't enough to sate Hyetta. She wants a fingerprint grape, which is a very euphemistic term for an eyeball from someone who's actually been grasped by the 3 fingers of the frenzied flame. Sounds chill. Because we can't have nice things, that distant light Hyetta was talking about is indeed nothing to do with the gentle golden glow of the round table hold and the 2 fingers, but the searing yellow burning of the 3 fingers, guardians of the frenzied flame of madness. Okay, this seems bad, but you can at least still help Hyetta begin her new life as a finger maiden, right? Even if it's for the freaky kinds of fingers. And besides, if you do inherit the frenzied flame yourself, your own maiden Melina won't want anything to do with you.
A pity. You are no longer fit. Our journey together ends here.
So here's a job opening for Hyetta. All we need to do is touch her briefly on the forehead.
Oh, it burns.
And then she's free to live her life as a finger maiden, offering sage wisdom on the origin and meaning of the frenzied flame. And oh no, wait, Hyetta, oh no, yep, she's catching fire. Yeah, she's on fire. Yeah, she's died. This is what happens in Elden Ring if you try to give someone a grape.
Tarnished, are we? I wonder you should turn up here. I am Cercyn, a sorcerer, quite plainly.
Does she also die?
Magic in Elden Ring is a mysterious and fascinating force with
Why does
plenty of
everybody
intriguing
die?
lore behind its usage and origins. But more importantly, it will let you absolutely melt bosses like your Goku with a pointy hat. As such, you'll want to learn and explore as many sorceries as possible, and there's none better to help you on your journey than Sorcerer Cercyn.
A yen for
Why did they all
glintstone
die?
sorceries. Well,
XDX.
Your aptitude does appear...
XDX, they all die.
Cercyn is a friendly dealer in magics who you'll soon warm to, despite the fact that, like so many Elden Ring magicians, she wears a weird stone face, although it seems likely this portrait found in Raya Lucaria shows what she really looks like. In fact, it's odd that the wizard school keeps this picture on the wall, because when you've made significant progress in the game, Cercyn will reveal she was booted out the academy.
It was for attempting to restore the primeval current of Glintstone sorcery. The toothless pedantry peddled by the Carian royal family can rot for all I care. I want Glintstone sorceries that open our minds, unbound by terrestrial taboos.
Well, we've got no idea what a primeval current or a Carian royal family is, but if it means helping Cercyn, we're all in. Especially if the process involves getting one over on the Academy of Raya Lucaria, which is where Bock and Topes died, and seems like a very badly run school indeed. Probably because the headmistress is Renala, and the deputy headmaster is an enormous wolf with a magic sword. You're lucky I'm not the Ofsted inspector, mate. Helping Cercyn is a very involved quest. First, you need to break an illusory wall and find an imprisoned sorcerer deep within a cavern in Caelid.
I feel like this.
At which point
I don't know if you want more details on
it.
it. I feel like I can't add too much on toffees.
Ruins, and she believes
So
someone wants her dead. So, in a bold display of trust, she asks you to keep hold of her very soul, that it may one day be transferred into a new body.
1 million braid. What the fuck? What?
Nice. Looks great.
And just in time, because it turns out the one keen to execute Cercyn is none other than Jeren, the bloke in charge of Caelin's War Festival, whose name was presumably chosen 5 minutes before Elden Ring shipped.
Ah, well met. I hardly expected to see the champion of the festival here. Of all places. You didn't know Cercyn, did you?
No, buddy, no. I just happened to be passing this incredibly obscure and specific underground jail cell. Never seen it before in my life, honest. But we're not done. Having helped Cercyn dodge death by Jeren, you need to find somewhere new for her soul to live. A new body for Cercyn is staggeringly well hidden, behind not 1, but 2 illusory walls in the distant Three Sisters region. But it's worth it to revive your favourite sorcerer.
We're reviving her.
Free to fulfill her dream of bringing the primeval current to Raya Lucaria. But only if you choose to assist her in killing Jeren in a climactic final showdown. Bet Jeren's wishing he'd put a few points in intelligence now. And then at last the job is done. Cercyn takes Renala's place and gratefully rewards all the help you offered. She tells you to go and become Elden Lord and that you will always be her darling pupil. She gives you some great loot and even a little good-natured ribbing.
If you fail to claim your throne, you can always pay me a visit. Oh, don't fret. Even my dullest pupils will always have a place here.
And in absolutely any other game, that would be the end of Cercyn's questline. But because this is Elden Ring, if you reload the area, Renala has come back and Cercyn is transformed into a horrifying ball of heads! The ball of heads that once was Cercyn can only splutter painfully, so we've no way of knowing how our good friend and teacher was transformed into such an abomination. Perhaps her experiments with the primeval current went horribly awry, or perhaps Renala punished her for trying to take control of the academy, or perhaps f*** you, it's Elden Ring. The only thing we know for sure is that this game can absolutely do one. I'm too furious to do an outro for this video, so please watch something else we made, or join the OX Supporters Club on Patreon. There's a Discord, it's cool. Thanks for watching, don't get turned into a ball of heads.
Back. My back hurts. My back hurts. The left part on top. The bone. The boner. My boner hurts. Oh my god, lore of millennia. I can't finish watching that. I fall asleep. Oh, I fall asleep.
Did you know that the bats in Elden Ring can sing? Or at least they could once. In the network test files of Elden Ring is unused animation 702, which places the bats in this
shoulder blades, or I think it's my
mysterious
shoulder blades.
When this was discovered, the question quickly became, what
beautiful.
language is this? Because while it sounds distinctly Japanese, it's not. It's actually Ainu, a language that is considered to be critically endangered,
sound Japanese.
with just 304 people within Japan able to understand the language to some extent. So even you hearing this is just such a rare sound, and while it might have always been nothing more than a placeholder song, I'm glad that we can all share in this song called Hedetun Otun,
11 months. Bugs.
The singing bat was unearthed by renowned modder Sakiro Dubi, and I highly recommend their cut content videos. Links in the description, as always. If this song was always just intended to be a placeholder, then it was intended to be a placeholder for the Song of Lament, which is a song in Latin that did make it into the final version of the game. Unlike other excerpts of Latin that feature in boss soundtracks in From Software games, this song, sung by the Harpies, is completely translatable, with lyrics that tell us a story. These Harpies are actually singing, "Alas, that land once blessed, now has diminished. We, betrothed, destined to be mothers, now become tarnished. We have lamented, we have shed tears, but no one consoles us. Golden
wow, 20 months, let's go. Have a comfy stream and eat
that
pats.
land is obviously a reference to the lands between, and the remaining lines are referring to the Harpies themselves. Though they have now lost grace, they longed at one point for betrothal and motherhood. Their cries in the final line are for the Golden One, who could be Marika or the greater will that once blessed the lands between. The Harpies now wonder what they've done to deserve such a lamentable fate. Again, most of From Software's soundtracks use excerpts of Latin, resulting in this untranslatable soundtrack language, as confirmed by the composers themselves in the past. The Song of Lament is a clear exception, however, and it being written in actual Latin points to its significance. Special thanks to YouTuber and Latin student Antonius Tertius for their detailed reliable breakdowns of Latin.
How do I reference this?
So, the Harpies not being able to be mothers is one thing, but if we go back to the network test of Elden Ring, we learn of other things that might stand in the way of reproduction. Let's talk about the old description of turtle neck meat.
What is that?
Originally,
bird?
Turtle neck meat was supposed to boost virility, but none in the lands between seem to have much appetite for it these days. In the lands between, the urge to reproduce has waned long ago. And while the description has since been changed, it does suggest that the urge for reproduction is long dead amongst all tarnished. But I guess they were all maidenless anyway, right? There is some evidence that birth is now handled by the Erd tree, but that discussion might have to wait for another video. So, for now, pickle your turtleneck meat and consider doing something more productive with that stamina boost. The Tarnished can, after all, cook up some pretty good stuff in Elden Ring. Unlike me, the next secret is I can't cook unless it's with HelloFresh. So, if you don't know, HelloFresh is this subscription service that provides you with pre-proportioned ingredients right to your doorstep, meaning less prep for you and...
Didn't expect
speaking of
an ad.
chefs, let's talk about
Didn't expect
Big
ad.
Bogart. Despite his title, Blackguard, he doesn't
Didn't
actually belong
expect
to any
butthole.
Blackguard company or order. He's not a professional knight or a guard of anything, which fits his character, given how he accosts Raya and steals her necklace. But perhaps therein lies the answer. The name Blackguard is actually the word blackguard in the Japanese version of the game, which is another word for scoundrel, or one who uses foul language in front of a respectable woman. Yeah, that tracks. Chat with him though, and this tough exterior begins to melt away. But we'll talk more about Bogart in the upcoming Prepare to Cry episode. Be a shame if anything were to happen to him, right? Speaking of foreshadowing, Elden Ring foreshadows events right away from the very first step. Looking out from here, you'll notice several key landmarks that hint at what's to come. The most obvious is Stormvale Castle, and then of course the Erd Tree, but there's a third landmark that I only recently noticed that towers even further in the distance. the forge housing the giant's flame. It's here where you'll fight the fire giant and ignite one of the most important flames in your Elden Ring journey, but catching a clear glimpse of it from the first step is pretty difficult, even with the telescope. However, you can increase the telescope's magnification for a better look with the help of the Arrow's Reach Talisman, which brings me to my next secret, that the Arrow's Reach Talisman increases the range of your bows and crossbows, and yes, your binoculars as well, but that's not all. You'd be forgiven for not knowing this, but it also increases the range of Rock Sling, Great Oracular Bubble, Ambush Shard, and it even affects some Ashes of War, like Spectral Lance and Beast's Roar. And as you just saw, some of these actually become a fair bit more viable with this talisman. That's more than can be said for most of the crossbows and bows, which just have terrible scaling in general and limited viability beyond luring enemies to you. You loot this talisman above the gatefront site of Grace. Actually, from here, we can just see Bock's hiding place, and I'd like to talk about him a little bit more, since it's unlikely he will feature in any upcoming episodes. As we've mentioned before, armor alteration has a cost if you perform it at a site of grace, but it can be performed for free by Bock. And if you want to keep Bock around for the entire game, then it's important not to give him a larval tear when he requests one in Lane Dell. Doing so will send him down an unfortunate, deadly path, a fate that is actually foreshadowed earlier in his questline. If given the larval tear, Bock will make his way to Renala, where he'll be reborn in human form, but unable to speak. And if you reload the area, you'll then find him dead, curled up in a corner.
What?
This position is foreshadowed in one of the earliest conversations with Bock, where, after reclaiming his sewing needle, he reminisces about his mother.
My mum was a seamstress, and that sewing kit was all I had to remember her by. I always wanted to be just like sweet old mum. Then I suppose I can't just curl up and die, can I?
The larval tear, unfortunately, doesn't have the same.
Why does this video sound like a National Geography documentary, but it's Elden Ring?
Warning of this as well, with its description reading, "Children born anew by Renala are all frail and short-lived." So, when the time comes and he asks for a larval tear, it's worth using a prattling pate item instead to tell him how beautiful he is.
You're beautiful. Thank you very much. And his name is Johnson. Was always the only
What?
My dear Lord, let me hear her voice. Do you feel the same way my mum did, my lord? You think I'm beautiful despite these looks? Oh, my lord, my dear lord, I, Bock the Seamster, am forever in your service. May the throne of Elden Lord be yours.
Sometimes it's easy to overlook these smaller items and the impact they can have on the world around you. The crystal darts are another example of this. In a previous video we discussed how the Erdtree burial watchdogs and imps short-circuit when struck with them, attacking each other in the process. But did you know that the giant golems also experience this effect? They take a few more hits than imps or burial watchdogs do, but they will turn on each other just the same. Given the crystal dart's description, which reads, "A golem crafter employed a similar crystal tool," it appears that the giant golems have the same creator as the imps and the burial watchdogs. Perhaps this golem crafter wanted an easy way to keep them all controlled, and could do so through these darts. Morgoth's cursed sword is another interesting item. Its description reads, "A cursed blood that Morgoth recanted and sealed away, reformed into this blade." It also has quite the introduction, as Morgoth reveals its iridescent design by breaking the outer shell of his cane. However, this reveal has undergone a bit of a change in recent patches. Originally, in patch 1.02, this animation featured flames rippling through the cracks of his cane, which is a detail that suited him, remarking how you're emboldened.
This will all be on the test later, Annie. Make sure to take notes.
As pointed out by a user on Reddit,
since patch
1.04, the flames have disappeared, and the outer shell of his cane now just crumbles away. This change is minor, but I don't think it's a bug. I think it's intentional. By removing the flame, it actually holds back the reveal of what this sword is capable of, which actually takes place in the second phase, not the first phase. Its unique skill is Cursed Blood Slice, which leaves this bloody trail, followed by a burst of flame, and taking away this foreshadowing gives this weapon a chance to show off what makes it special in the fight itself. This look of madness is one that's only seen in select locations in Elden Ring, but it is easily recognizable through glowing flame-like eyes. You can even give your character these eyes by pursuing the Lord of Frenzy flame ending, and the moment you get these eyes is when you're embraced by the three fingers. These eyes are actually only one of 3 different variations that you can give your character though. Blood red eyes are another option that appear once Vare's questline has been completed, and dragon eyes appear after purchasing 4 separate dragon communion incantations. If you find these aren't your style, or you remove them accidentally, you can enable or disable these eyes through the mirror in Fia's room. These eye colors just scratch the surface of what Elden Ring offers in terms of customization. To help figure out players' favorites, Japanese magazine Famitsu conducted a survey with 1,700 Elden Ring players back in April. This covered everything from bosses to weapons to which locations were players' favorites. So despite the wide variety of weapon types available, katanas won over 841 of these 1,700 players. That's almost half the votes, and it does make sense considering how coveted the Moonveil and Rivers of Blood are, and there's rarely been a bad katana in a Souls game, after all. Greatswords came in close behind with 641 votes. For magic users, Comet Azure was a top choice of attack with 240 votes. Again, this makes sense with how unbeatable it can be when stacked with the right buffs. And you might be wondering which Spirit Ashes took the prize. It's not surprising to learn that the Mimic tier was at the top of the list, but Black Knife Tiche as well came in at a close second. As for bosses, Star Scourge Radahn left the greatest impact on players with 687 votes, and perhaps unsurprisingly, Millennia came in just behind him at 658. As for endings, Rani's ending is by far people's favourite, and Caelid and Limgrave came out on top in regards to areas, with 456 and 409 votes respectively. But every location in Elden Ring contains hidden details, and even now I'm still noticing new things when I explore the world, just tucked away in a piece of map that I've somehow missed until now. A perfect example lies here, in a northwesterly area of the Altus Plateau. Here, you might have noticed an unusual concentration of death-blighted creatures, as well as a minor Erd tree that is completely dead, with a small gathering at its base. The spread of this death blight is actually due to the location that lies beneath all of this, the Deep-Root Depths. It's here where Godwyn, the Prince of Death, is rotting away. Slowly, his death root has started to make its way through the lands between, which explains why creatures both above and below can be seen with his pustules of death, especially the closer they are to Godwyn's throne. It's these small details that really make Elden Ring's world and story, and these kind of details can also be plucked out of cutscenes. One Reddit user, credit to them, found one very important detail during Godfrey's cutscene. It's that there is actually a guidance of grace in this scene that is directing him towards you as his next objective. The most important detail in this scene actually ties into where this grace is coming from, Morgoth's body. As Godfrey sets him down and he dissolves, the guidance then points him to his next purpose, defeating you. For number 15, let's talk about patches. Everyone knows by now that he disappears when summoned for the fight against Radahn. It's funny, and it suits the cowardice inherent in his character, which was set up earlier when he begs for mercy against you. But did you know that you can later beg for mercy against him? If you attack Patches and he manages to lower your health to half, he tells you to grovel instead. Doing so grants you the extreme repentance gesture, and once performed, he says he'll forgive you and considers your transgression water under the bridge. This is quite a fun way to show that even though he's deceitful and insincere, Patches actually has the ability to be reasonable. It's also a moment where you can pick up another gesture, so don't miss it. One thing you might have missed is located here, at the Stargazer's ruins in the mountaintops of the Giants. Here, Aureliette is searching for her sister, Aurelia.
Jesus, how many NPCs are there?
You promised me when we turn 14, we go to see the stars. I've been waiting ever so long. Forever and ever, it seems.
And if you've spoken to Roderica, then Aurelia has actually been traveling with you this whole time. The spirit jellyfish Roderica gave you back then is Aurelia, proven by her description, which also reads that she's a jellyfish prone to tears who is searching for her distant home. Reuniting the two sees them setting off to see the stars, but the moment is made bittersweet by the truth of what actually happened to them. Of course, they're both spirits, and if you continue down the cliffside beyond the ruins, you'll find 2 small graves. It would seem that the sisters died young, with their one final wish being to see the stars. I'm not sure why they couldn't see the stars before this. Maybe they belonged to the Nox, who were banished down to the Eternal Cities, and they only just made their way up here. But regardless, thanks to you, it seems, they are finally able to be at peace. Another interesting character who can give you their spirit ashes is Latenna, who is an Albinoric woman who longs to return to the land of Miquella's Haligtree. And interestingly, this spirit is actually able to mount other nearby direwolves in special circumstances, just like the other Albinoric wolfback archers in the game. User Neopie on Reddit made this discovery, showing how Latenna's spirit ash can ride direwolves in both Carrier Manor and the consecrated snowfields. So not only does this allow her to move around much quicker, but she can also cast freezing mist while mounted. This is also a completely unique behavior to Latenna. Kaiden spirits can't ride Kaiden horses, nor can Nox spirits ride giant ants, like their actual counterparts in-game can. According to Zully the Witch, this might occur because the Albinoric archers can't move, so wolves have to be coded to go to them. Thus, the wolves actually are the ones with the ride request functions in their logic, but the Nox ants and the Kaiden horses do not have this by comparison. For number 18, did you know that Gostok is actually one of Elden Ring's sneakiest and most deceptive NPCs? From the moment you meet him, this character is actually following you around Stormvale Castle unseen, and while he's doing this, he is stealing 30% of the runes that you get in this area each time you die.
What?
But, lucky for you, there's a few ways to stop this rune tax from occurring. You can, of course, kill Gostok, which also nets you his bell bearing, but then you miss out on the ancient dragon smithing stone that he grants you at the end of his questline. If you'd prefer to stop him in a less permanent fashion, you can actually catch him stalking you around the castle. You can find him following you here, at the very bottom floor below the door that needs the rusty key. Here, next to the rampart tower grate, in the tower behind you, and here, on the rooftop above where you first meet Roger. Talking to him in these locations puts an end to his meddling, and ensures that you can keep all of your runes. Gostok actually has a couple of aspects around him that are easy to overlook, like his missing hand, for example. The most likely explanation of this is that he was grafted in the past, considering how he's living in the home of Godric the Grafted. After all, this would make sense, and his hatred of Godric points to this as well. It's clear that Gostok's no stranger to grafting, but there are moments where it sounds like he almost wants to do it to others. When following you around Stormvale, particularly at his second location, you'll find him crouched near a dead body saying,
another one, all skin and bones. Worse than a petty squire. Not a muscle on this one either.
Once you begin talking to him, he'll explain that he's just clearing out some corpses. And it could be that he's just looting these bodies, but the focus on muscle is an interesting detail. This theory can be pushed a bit further if you attack him early on and let him kill you. Going back to Elden Ring's closed network test, it actually has a couple more interesting secrets within it that were sadly left on the cutting room floor so long ago. One very interesting thing involves Ranni the Witch, who Sekiro Dubi was able to discover originally had a double voice to match her double face. What do you think of this voice recreation?
A pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished. I am the witch Renna. I'd heard tell of a Tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed.
Do you think this is better than Ranni's regular voice, or is it too much? There were several other changes made between the closed network test and the full release, including an important change made to the description of the Daedakar's Woe talisman. In the final version of Elden Ring, Daedakar's Woe describes a woman named Daedakar, who indulged in every form of adultery and wicked pleasure imaginable, giving birth to a myriad of grotesque children. Originally, though, Daedakar was described as an entirely different character. Earlier text describes them as a soft-featured man, who was one of Captain Rykard's paramours, as well as an attendant in his Inquisition. Considering this talisman is dropped by Raya, its current iteration befits her backstory as this poor unwanted offspring of a repellent birthing ritual per the serpent's amnion. Perhaps Raya was even one of these grotesque children the description mentions. Another minor change made to a character was the removal of Radahn's pet cat. The long-tailed cat description found in version 1.0 of the game featured a description reading, a brooch depicting a long-tailed cat, known to be the beloved pet of General Radahn. It goes on to say that this black cat was known to have enjoyed jumping down from great heights. It would leap from the great bell tower of
Holy shit, I almost overridden all the toffees.
Once fully grown, from the great heavensward roots that twisted through the Erd Tree capital skies. Unfortunately, this description has been edited out for some reason, but even though official word of Radahn's cat is kind of gone, this small detail helps to paint this grander picture of the conqueror of the stars. Along with the love that he clearly has for his horse, it seems that before his life as an Elden Ring boss, he was simply an animal lover. Speaking of animals, there's a piece of Garank's storyline that's very easy to miss. After receiving a few deathroot, he lashes out at you, and after that, at some point, there's even a moment where you might catch him howling at the night sky outside. Or, perhaps, given his direction, maybe he's howling at the Erd Tree. Of course, Garank, or Malakath, was Marika's shadow, and it's kind of heartbreaking to think that he's howling in her direction here, imprisoned as she is inside the Erd Tree. For number 24, let's talk about Sir Gideon Ofnir. During your battle with him, he utilizes a ton of spells and incantations, but have you ever wondered how he gets all these spells? Well, YouTuber Garden of Eyes explains that there's actually a default set of spells that Gideon has. Comet, Comet Azure, Carrion Phalanx, Black Flame Ritual, Triple Rings of Light, Law of Causality, and one open slot. This open spot is determined by whether or not you've killed Rykard, Malenia, or Mo, the Lord of Blood, which are all optional bosses. And depending on which one of these that you've killed, Rykard's Rancor, Malenia's Scarlet Aeonia, or Mohg's Blood Boon can be placed in that open slot. If you've killed 2 of these bosses, then one of their abilities will replace Comet Azure, and killing all 3 will also replace.
You're talking shit on my Mario Direct.
What?
Who told you?
That relies on others.
I'm so angry I didn't even think of.
Also utilizes the smaller animal spirits.
What do you mean? Who fucking told you? Who snitched?
Mix up its attack patterns.
Who
snitched? Out by
Zully
the Witch, the ancestral spirit will move through the room, bursting through.
Bro, there's way too much Mario shit.
And
it's not fair.
Some of their characteristics. For
I am a
example,
Giga Chat VOD watcher.
Upwards
Okay, dude.
Absorbing a ball grants it the ability of a ramming charge.
Why would you watch me? What's direct? You wanted to hear my reactions? Fucking obnoxious amount of Mario shit.
And so many of the details in this video thank you so much for watching. Special thanks also to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. You guys will like, I think, what I've been investing some of this sponsor money into soon. With the next Prepare to Cry, you'll see some of that.
Bobber, is that why you unsubbed for me? Because I shit it at direct?
It really does help me out. And I'm glad I found a couple of sponsors that I actually have a history with using.
Mario Direct, right?
So, thank you so much.
Mario needs their own Direct now.
And I'll see you next time.
The new Mario Wonder game comes out and has online multiplayer. Let's stream it. What is it about? What was it? Oh. Ah yes. Ah yes. Beat it up. Yes, I'm drawing toffs for people who gifted 100 subs. Tough. By the way, toffee is still mine, so do not use it in commercial purposes. Toff is still mine. Corp. Stop streaming, you're cringe. That is why I am streaming. Thank you very much. The fuck is that? Mushrooms? Blech. Or eggplant. What is the English subtitle? Oh yeah, it is. Wow. Where's my toffee? I don't think he requested one, and I didn't even draw everyone else yet. I didn't say I was done. Can you not at least backseat done? Where do you request one? Message my mods. If you didn't draw everyone a toffee, you didn't beat the game. Bro, it's gonna take me forever to draw one for everybody. You didn't beat the game. There's a lot of people who gifted over 100 subs and they didn't ask for anything. You don't have to if you don't want to. Monari said, what if I ask for an invisible toffee? Wait, invisible toffee? A ghost? A ghost. Goofy, still visible. No, he's not. Look. No, he's not. Wait, Annie, your subathon is still going? No? Is it? He asked for 20 of them. Here you go. We made them copy the pasting. You want me to draw each of them differently? Great one. A nice pattern. What do you guys have against copying and pasting? Hello.
Now delete it. Sorry, it was just a meme for Sunst.
Oh my god, why, man? Okay. Forsenst.
Hi everyone. Today I'm back at the Biohazard Hoarder House, and I have officially, as of today, cleaned the grossest thing that I've ever cleaned. And we'll get to that a little bit later in the video.
Oh my god.
As you can see by these pictures, the maggots from the kitchen have extended
I'm gonna go
room.
grab some fruit.
I'm assuming you've seen the kitchen cleanup, and I probably shouldn't do that. YouTube's a big place.
Put a new trash bag for everything.
Obviously,
I'm fucking banana skin rotting.
She's gone through several surgeries. She is virtually immobile. She can walk a little bit, but most of the time she requires a walker. She's her spinal cord is 1/3 the size of an average person's spinal cord. She's dealt with several deaths in the family, including her husband. And combined with the genetic factors that go into hoarding, this house has seen kind of the worst of the disorder. It's one of the worst I've seen. Not as far as clutter goes, but as far as the entire kitchen was covered in dead maggots. As you can see through some of these pictures and some of the video, chairs and dishes that are in this dining room are also covered. But we'll get into the really gross stuff here in just a bit. Right now I'm just going to start picking up trash, and I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, that she was attempting to help me, even though she can't really physically get around, and she really doesn't have any business exerting that kind of energy on this house. She really needs like a housekeeper on a weekly basis. But she made an attempt. She went in and cleaned out part of her refrigerator. You'll see her picking up some stuff off the dining room table in the background here in just a bit. I finally got to the point where I made her go in the other room and relax. I mean, she was out of breath. She was having trouble walking, and really, as far as I was concerned, this is what I'm here to do. Now, for those of you who don't know, I do this for free. This is one of my weird hobbies. I'm autistic. I know I mention that a lot, so sorry to regular viewers who hear me say it over and over again. But for new viewers, I'm autistic, and this is one of the things that kind of keeps my mind calm and keeps me focused. And I really love watching the transformation from chaos to order. And so I do this for people to help them out. This house cleanup would be, in its entirety, probably $10,000 or $15,000 to get this back in order. And most people I know don't have that kind of money to begin with. So if I can do it for free, hey, that's awesome. They can get something done that they need. I can fulfill my itch. I can scratch my itch for cleaning, and we both, you know, I get to make a neat video out of it, and so we both benefit. When I clean this table, I'm just going to wipe all the maggots off with a dry rag, and those are all dead. And then I'm going to go back over it with a mixture of 91% isopropyl alcohol, water, and Dawn dish soap. I mix the alcohol, about 20% alcohol and 80% water, and I let that set for a minute or two so that it can disinfect. I have been using a couple things wrong, so I want to kind of correct those in this video. I had used the word sterilize a lot in my last video, and that terminology is incorrect. So what I'm doing here is sanitizing with alcohol and not sterilizing. Also, I had been using Mr. Clean's Clean Freak thinking that it sanitized, but it does not. If you're using Mr. Clean, especially Clean Freak, only use that to get rid of crud and grease and dirt. It's a really nice polishing type of cleaner. But if you're wanting to sanitize, use either alcohol and water or bleach. So I also learned something when I was cleaning these chairs. I don't utilize it until I get into the living room, but it turns out the best way for me to do this stuff is to go over this with Mr. Clean first and get all the crud off of it, and then go back over it with my disinfecting spray with the alcohol, water, and soap mixture. And the reason that that's better is if you can get the dirt and grease and stuff off of stuff first, then you're allowing the disinfectant to make contact with the actual surface of the chair rather than with the dirt. So I'll actually utilize that whenever I get into the living room furniture. Now I'm just going to sweep up the floor, and that's basically so I just don't track dirt from room to room. There's so much dirt on this floor that normally you'd save the floors until last, but really the more dirt I can get off of here now, the less I'm tracking, you know, all this nasty stuff all over the house.
What do you mean classic?
Now when I start picking up the trash, especially in the middle of the house, we're going to start getting into all the Pepsi cans. She has a fixation with Pepsi, as you can see. She also collects Pepsi memorabilia. So what I do is I save all the cans in one trash bag, and I put all the trash in another trash bag. That way she can take the cans to a recycling place or have somebody do it for her and at least get a little bit of money back from this stuff.
Keely.
Now the dining room and this little transition area between the dining room and living room wasn't that bad. I mean, it was bad, but I mean, it's nothing compared to the actual living room. So pretty much all I have to do here is pick up the trash and the Pepsi cans and then sweep the area. But once I get into the living room, this is where things are going to go south pretty quick. So there are at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 trash bags that are overflowing that she has collected herself over a long period of time. Then on top of that and under that, there's a lot of food that's rotting, old pizza boxes and stuff. But the grossest of the gross is going to be when we get over toward that rocking chair.
Okay, you
so
are watching this.
I can understand,
It doesn't make me feel anything.
Of common sense piecing together here is that when she had her surgery,
I watched too many cleaning videos,
and she got really immobile. She couldn't make it to the bathroom. So as far as I can tell, she started using puppy training pads on her chairs. And then when she ran out of puppy training pads, she used bath towels. So what I'm picking up here, and I'm so sorry to have to describe this to you or
I don't feel anything anymore.
But what I'm picking up there is literally raw sewage. It's bad enough that if I would have had a biohazard suit or some sort of safety gear to put on over my clothes, I genuinely would have. If I would have had access to a respirator, I would have used that too instead of this mask. I do not advise anyone to do what I'm doing here. I would go in there, if I had to do this over again, I would have put this off for another day and gone out and gotten full biohazard gear. Now, for those of you who have asked, and for everyone who didn't, because I'm going to say it anyway, she is getting help from a doctor. She is seeing a psychiatrist. She's in therapy. If you have seen my last video, which this will be a part of a playlist, and my first video is when I did the kitchen, and that'll be the very first video in this playlist. But if you've seen my cleanup of the kitchen, that was about a week ago. And whenever I arrived here today, the kitchen was still in good shape. The counters were clean. There was one dish in the sink, which was a pan that she had just used today. She had already started to clean out her refrigerator. The stove was still clean. So I was really, really happy that she didn't let that go and she kept up with it. That's a really good sign.
Okay.
That's very, very, very difficult for somebody with hoarding
Never
disorder.
shares, it's my
Now,
food.
normally in these rooms, I try to save what I can. Canned food that hasn't been opened, some dishes and things like that. In this room, almost everything had to be thrown out. It was utterly and completely contaminated.
I'm eating kiwi and apples. There's only 80 grams for apples and 70 grams of kiwi. And you want me to share this? Nope. Mm-mm. 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 Noppers. How do you not like kiwi though? Kiwi is so good.
Cans. More like cans.
I can't believe Annie would say no to her chat.
Now, there's a lot of paper
Unacceptable.
and stuff stuck to this
Spam
floor,
XDD to protest.
I got most of it off, and we'll go over how
Can't
I
believe
got a
my
lot of
streamer
this
is
off in
greedy.
just
She
a little bit,
won't
but
share
I'm not
her
gonna
apple
get
with us.
100% of it off. If I had
Now,
more
top
time
VTubers are
and
so
I had,
greedy.
better equipment with me, I could get this back down to the regular floor. But in this scenario here, the only thing I was doing was trying to get this as clean as possible and as sanitized as possible so she could at least enter this room again. because as it stands right now, I mean, I wouldn't trust anyone anywhere in this house without like full mask and gloves and everything.
No apple for you. Also, I forgot to charge. Ugh. Where's the fucking hole?
So now we're going to start working on this floor in layers, and this is really, really difficult to pull off. So I'm going to sweep it up and get all the heavy, loose stuff off of there first. Then I'll finish picking up the rest of the trash, and then I'm going to come back with a mop bucket filled with bleach water.
Well, channel, yeah, my mods are working on it.
20% bleach and 80% water. And all I'm going to do is saturate the mop in water, and
what about Elden Ring?
dribble that all over the floor
Another
where all this
Elden
paper
Ring
and stuff is stuck, and where that literal human waste is on the floor. And then I'll allow that to sit
I don't know if I'll
quite
do the
a while.
whole playthrough.
I think I let that sit 10 or 15 minutes. Now, normally, under no circumstances would I let water sit on a floor like that, on a hardwood floor. But this thing is already ruined, and the only thing I'm concerned about is making sure that I disinfect all this. When I vacuum these couches out, I know that one of the things you're going to think is, why didn't you pull the cushions off and vacuum shop vac underneath those? Those cushions are actually attached to the couch. So all you can do is just spread them apart where they meet and get in between them, but you can't actually take the cushions off. So here I am, I dribbled the bleach water all over this stuff, and I let it set for about 10-15 minutes. Then I'm coming back with a paint scraper and getting all the really
really needs to put some music on.
Here. And mostly what I'm concentrating on is the paper. There's a small, like 1 foot by 1 foot section where the actual human waste is, and fortunately that came up pretty easy. And double fortunately, it doesn't look that gross. But I will never in my life forget that smell. It does not smell the way you're thinking it does. It smells like heavy ammonia, and I can't even describe it. It's not like after you've vacated a taco night. It's not like that at all. There's no smell like it in the world.
Imagine how Melania stinks. Blech. Ew. Ew. Why are you sniffing? She's literally
so after
stinks
I scrape
like
all this
rot.
up, I'm going to sweep up the pile, and then I'm going to put more bleach over the top of this, because now we're down through the first layer, and I want that bleach water to soften the second layer. And then we're going to repeat that process until I'm down to the bare floor. Otherwise, all I'm doing is dribbling bleach on top of dirt, but I'm never actually reaching the floor to sanitize the floor itself.
That's an Annie smell. Hey, I showered today.
Then once I've gotten bare floor or most of the way down, I'm going to mop it pretty heavy with a really saturated mop, and then go back again with the paint scraper now that I've got all that loose stuff off, because now I can see a little bit better what I'm working with.
Kind of sweating in this outfit though.
So I'll mop that whole floor with bleach, and that will loosen up even more dirt. So I'll sweep that up again.
Sweating in my tits
and
out.
then in the meantime, I'm going to change the mop water out, and I'm going to replace that with Murphy's oil soap rather than bleach. Because at this point, I've gotten that saturated enough and mopped in enough to where this is mostly sanitized. I still wouldn't walk on it with bare feet because, but it's enough to where it's only a psychological thing. At this point, the actual really bad stuff is killed off. Now, there are things that they make that can get rid of that black stain, and we may come back at some point and get rid of that.
So
but right now, I'm not concerned about stains. I'm concerned about what made the stains.
No boobs. No boobs. Okay, there's 2 votes for no boobs and 1
so now
vote
we'll just
for boobs.
sweep our way all the way through the dining room and the living room and try to get this as cleaned up as possible so that I can start mopping both of these floors.
No boobs. No boobs. At least draw some nice ones. What are those? What do you mean? Those are the best boobs.
Now, before I mop, I want to get the last little furniture stuff done. I was wiping this down and having a little bit of trouble because I couldn't get into the cracks, around the glass, and then I realized, oh, you can actually take the glass out. You can just push it out from the bottom. So I pushed that out. I use Mr. Clean to get the main crud and stuff off, and then I go back over it with alcohol and water, which is what I was talking about earlier in the video, and that seemed to work way, way better than doing that in reverse. I wish I could have done something better with all the cords that are draped over that chair, but I couldn't figure out how to kind of hide them because it's in a really weird spot. But right now it looks like Medusa. Another thing we'll do at some point in the future is come back and make this place look more decorative and pretty. Again, right now I'm mainly concentrating on trying to disinfect everything and get it clean, and then we can use a decorative eye a little bit later whenever the house gets into livable condition again. Now, I wouldn't do this to every TV because I don't know how the screens would react with what I'm using. But if you've got a cheap TV that's got a bunch of fingerprints and stuff on it, you can use that alcohol, soap, and water solution and wash that down with a microfiber towel, and it will take all that stuff off of there really easy.
The fuck did I draw this?
Okay, now one last sweep across the living room floor, and then we will switch to Murphy's oil soap and start mopping. And I mean, obviously it's not perfect, and obviously there's still some paper and stuff stuck to the floor, but compared to what that was, that's insane. Oh, and before anybody asks, I did in fact lift up the couch on both sides, and I lift up that recliner in the back. there was basically nothing underneath there. The trash had built like a tight wall and kind of made like a trash dam so nothing could get underneath it. There was a little bit of stuff underneath it, but it was too boring to film, so I just cleaned it out and moved on. Now this is the cleanest area of the house. This is the computer desk, and I don't even think the computer works anymore. Pretty much everything is unplugged. And so all I'm doing here is pulling stuff off of it, putting all the paperwork in one box. Oftentimes at a hoarder's house, one of the things that they all seem to collect is mail. Junk mail, important mail. So it's really difficult to figure out what is good to throw in the trash and what is good to keep. So what I do, just to err on the side of caution, is to put all paperwork in one spot. I mean, they had it in one spot on the computer desk anyway, so all I'm doing is putting it in a box. So it's not like it's hidden away in their house. When I'm filled this box, I'll close it up and I put it underneath the desk and then push the chair in front of it. That way she knows exactly where it's at. Then I'm just going to do a quick declutter on the top of the desk and get rid of any old,
I saw the
obvious trash. Try to organize it as best I can. We're not looking for perfect here. And then I'm just going to use Everyday Pledge to wipe down.
I think he needs a better mic.
At this point, I was starting to really feel it, and I was just like, I just want it done so I can go home and eat things I'm not supposed to eat, and then lay around and do 8 pounds of nothing.
Shampoo.
There's no yours, thank you. Thank you, the 10 subs. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Damn, this guy needs to put some music on. I'm gonna lose it.
Okay, now we're going to get the final sweep in this area and then put everything back, and then we can move on and finish out the mopping with Murphy's Oil Soap in this room. So suck it. Also, I realized that those pants do nothing for my butt. I swear I have a butt, but I may have to actually look into buying some pants that prove that. Wonder if I can sue that pants company for butt disguising, butt hiding.
Why is he talking about that?
Butt falsehoods.
No one's looking at your butt. Chill. No one's looking at the butt. I was. Why would you do that?
I actually tried to get that paper that's on the upper left-hand corner of your screen. I tried to get that up with a scraper, but that's really, really stuck on there. I can get it off with, there's a chemical they call, or a product they call Goo Gone. And I've got some out in the van, but it also snowed for the first time here last night and this morning while I was doing this. And I was just too much of a wuss to go out and get it. I will at some point. Oh, hey, more dishes.
Thank you.
So yeah, I wouldn't be Midwest Magic cleaning video without a ton of dishes done at 1500% speed. Now these are all the dishes that just came out of the living room and dining room. And so she actually did have a clear sink whenever I came in here today, but there was a lot of dishes that came out of those 2 rooms. And this is not even taking into effect the ones that I just outright threw away because they were too contaminated to save. I do, by the way, make that sound whenever I do dishes sometimes, or whenever I'm doing really anything and I'm the only one there and I need to amuse myself. If you don't make sound effects while you're doing chores, we don't even live in the same universe.
True. Truing. Now put some music on. This guy just left me in silence here. Wow, I see how it is.
All right, last of the dishes, and here comes some before and after shots. These are pretty crazy. I'm so glad you guys couldn't smell in that room. It was so bad. So next week, hopefully I'll be doing the bathroom, but I'm probably gonna have to search for literal biohazard gear for the bathroom because it's not like anything you've ever seen, I promise you. If you haven't subscribed yet, that'd be awesome. I'm not the kind of guy who really cares a lot about subscriber counts, but I just kind of want to get one of those plaques and freak out all my kids' friends. All right, I'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.
Basic.
Hi, I'm Auri Katarina, and I deep clean my followers' homes for free.
Hi.
You might wonder how this home ended up in this condition. Many times people ask me how somebody could live like this. Why they don't clean, why they don't care. Piles of bottles, mold in the shower, all the trashes on the floor, dust everywhere, dirty bed. But still, I don't care because I'm here to help and I can explain. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. My followers from Instagram named this place Can Chamber because there was a lot of cans. Guess how much cash we got for returning these bottles? I will tell you the exact amount later.
Angie.
Coming up in this video.
Coming. Jesus, my neighbor upstairs is fucking stomping.
Let's start our story when I received an email from a man called James. I was in a spa with my fiance and it was Sunday morning. We had just woken up and it was a beautiful day. The email said, "Hi, I'm James and I discovered your YouTube channel just recently. I have exactly the same kind of problems as I can see from your videos. I came to tears when I watched your videos and I realized that there are more of the same kind of people as I am. I tried to fix my problems with your videos,
people
but
leave. Actually, she's single now.
My landlord has sent me a message about my broken bathroom tiles. I had to fix it a couple of years ago, but I didn't.
This is an older video.
He's asking, is it fixed? I have a huge fear and anxiety to answer to him, and I'm afraid that he wants to come and see the tiles and the whole apartment. If he comes here and sees this mess, I will get evicted. I'm desperately in need of help because I slipped into a situation I can't get away by myself. I believe that cleaning this apartment would help my situation and get me the right track. Could you help me?
No.
Here's my number and address." I read the message and I grabbed my phone. I called him. I knew that this is the right moment to help him. He was shocked when he answered. "You called me so quick. What's happening?" I said that I could come next weekend to clean. It was okay for him. Next, I received a call from unfamiliar number. It was James' mom. She was thanking me because her son James had called her and his father at the same day, telling everything about his drinking problems, about the state of his home, and how he needed help. James was working normally from home, so nobody knew about the situation. He was polite and everybody liked him. Everything seemed so normal and that the things were going well in his life. But deep down, James was suffering alone. But James' mom told me that when you said that you can help him, it gave a lot of courage for James to ask some more, so he called us. And that's why I want to thank you. Then the cleaning day came and James' sister came to give us the key and told that James is now in rehabilitation and that they are so happy right now. The whole family wants to help him as well as James' work. The company is supporting James' rehabilitation by paying for it. James is relieved that his biggest secret is no longer a secret. He is now free from hiding. This is a real-life story of why asking for help is so important. Sometimes it's the biggest fear of all, but sometimes it sets you free and gives you a new fresh start. My motto is don't believe yourself. Many times your head is telling all kind of stuff to you. You can't do something, you can't reveal your pain. When you don't believe yourself and your fear, you can find something free.
Holy stomper.
If you ever find yourself struggling, talking helps. Try therapy. There you can confidentially talk about anything that is on your mind. BetterHelp is a professional online therapy where you will get matched to the best licensed therapist for you. BetterHelp is available worldwide and there are over 20,000 therapists with a wide range of expertise. Message your therapist anytime from anywhere and they will reply within 48 hours.
Stop knocking.
You can also receive weekly video or phone sessions with your therapist. Okay, but now back to cleaning. Now let's clean this bathroom cabinet. There is so many toothpaste and deodorants. I don't know why though, but let's clean it. And by the way, those bottles were empty. My friend Rika is a really good cleaner, as you can see.
My new avatar.
I think bathroom floor cleaning is super satisfying. Look at that. Pro tip. When you wash the bathroom floor, wipe it before rinsing it. It makes the rinsing so much faster since the soap is not foaming.
Thanks, Annie, looks great. I'm glad you like it. Yay! Yay!
Look how much dresses, cardboards, bottles, everything. So satisfying. My friend Rika collects all the cardboards and I'm collecting all the trashes.
Okay, I'll do more later.
Usually these people eat a